What is up, everyone? My name's Al from Games Rep. You all know that by now. And pretty much I introduce myself every single time like that. I'd probably make an absolute ass of myself. But anyway, what we've got today is a special stream. That's right. Got a decent amount of guests here. Got Ian Michael. We got James from It's Much More. And also, the obvious reason for you're all here is for Senile team. That's right. And you can obviously guess why. We'll be discussing Beats of Rage, Rush Rally Racing, and also Intrepid Izzy. And if there's anything else in the pipeline, obviously we don't know at this point. It could be. Maybe there's going to be a sequel to Intrepid Izzy. Maybe we'll ask that. Whether we can, I don't know, but we probably will anyway. So first of all, we will bring in James from It's Much More. Hello, James. How you doing? You all right?
All right. Yeah. Are you okay, Al? Had a good day?
I have had a actually pretty good day. To be a pretty lazy day though. Yourself?
Yeah. I had a good day in the old charity shop hunting and just enjoying being here, part of this amazing stream you got going on.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to have you as well. And I can obviously see you got Rush Rally Racing in the background as well.
Oh yes, had to represent.
Representing, I love it. No, thanks for being here, and it's great to have you.
Thank you.
And also, we have Ian Michael.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing okay. I'm just trying to wipe the sleep from my eyes and wake up, and I'm here.
Well, it's good to have you here. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, the reason everyone wanted you here as well is obviously because of your work on Beats of Rage for the Dreamcast as well, optimizing it. You know, everyone here is obviously massive Dreamcast fan. I'm pretty sure you all are anyway. Otherwise, why are you watching? That, and obviously, you know.
Beats of Rage is an excellent engine. So, and Team Senile have always been an inspiration. I mean, I started using Beats of Rage when it first came out. I think I was the first one to ever do a Turtles TMT mod at the time. And it was only ever a one-level demo, but it was very inspiring at the time because there was nothing like it really. So, yeah. Great to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad to have you here as well, Ian. And to be fair, I don't know if I've seen that Turtles.
Yes, it was called Raphael is Missing.
Ah, and was he missing?
Yes, you couldn't select him.
He was. Oh, right. See, was that lit? Oh, okay. That's awesome. Right, yeah, no, thank you, Ian, for being here. And we'll now bring in the guest, the main guest here. Not that no one here is any less than anyone else, but Senile team. Now, tell me if I'm wrong or not. Is it Senile team?
It is.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was getting it right. Because obviously, you know, I get things wrong quite often. But really glad to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing really well, and I'm doing even better now that I see that James has this wonderful background. And after Ian's kind words, well, my day is completely excellent.
It's absolutely been made. And I can obviously we got Izzy in the corner there as well. Look at that, fantastic, isn't it? I mean, obviously, I think I'm probably not the only one who's going to say it. It is an awesome game, and I truly can't wait for it to come to the Dreamcast. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, what actually drove the decision to bring it over to the Dreamcast? I'm guessing you've got a love for the Dreamcast. Am I right?
True. And I like the Dreamcast so much, but it's also that I have enough experience on the Dreamcast that when I was working on Izzy on PC, I just had this feeling that the Dreamcast could handle it, and I figured I'd give it a try. And first try, it was immediately running quite well. Not really 60 frames per second yet, but with a few tweaks, I managed to make it work. So I figured, I should probably release it on Dreamcast too.
Yeah, I mean, are there plans to have it on any other systems? Because obviously, currently
there is a plan to release it on PlayStation 4 as well. but that's not making much progress at the moment because Sony's not that easy to work with, I find. Well, that is, they have IP firewalls and my IP address changed, and then I can't reach them to let me in again and things like that. But I'll do my best, and we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely, because it's also is it available for Switch?
Nope.
It's not available. Why did I think it was available for Switch?
I don't know.
That's a really good point. I don't know. That's awesome. I mean, because I see a lot of independent games, they come out on systems like Dreamcast, PS4, and obviously sometimes Switch, but they never seem to go to Xbox. Is there a reason for that? Do you know? Is there some sort of something stopping people for it going onto the Xbox?
I'm not sure. I think there used to be. I think with the first version of the Xbox, it was actually very costly to release there, and it was very unlikely that you'd actually make money by releasing an indie game on Xbox. On Xbox Arcade, anyway, there were some hidden fees and stuff like that, but I'm not sure what it is now. As for myself, I simply don't have I don't have an Xbox, so it's not the first thing that I'd go for. But the more consoles, the merrier, I always say. So if there's a chance of bringing it to more consoles without it taking too much time, then I'd definitely do it.
Yeah, I mean, does it run on Linux? That's one question.
I haven't tried.
Okay. The only reason I ask is because the console behind James's head, called the Evercade, it's just up on that's it. I might have mentioned it to you before. It's a Linux. I think it runs on Linux. And I was just wondering if we could eventually see it come to a system like that, because obviously they've now got a actual fully fledged console coming out. It's not just going to be a handheld anymore. And the games, here's just a few of them. You got like different collections, like you got the Oliver Twins, so if you know the Dizzy games, Jalico, Namco. Yeah, there's tons and tons of different Data East. And all, the one I was, packaging. Yeah, to be fair, very, very cool. And they're all numbered as well, which kind of gets the collector in most of us to try and buy all of them. I mean, to be fair, I haven't bought them all. I bought the ones I've kind of really wanted. But yeah, pretty decent packaging. Only reason I mention the Evercade is because there's a collection which has Xenocrisis and Tanglewood on it. And they've also got they call it like an indie games collection coming out. But there's a lot of these collections that seem to be coming out that are focused on developers who aren't people like Namco and Capcom and things like that. I was just wondering if it was ever on your radar or anything like that. But I just think it'd be a really cool thing to have. Rush Rally Racing, and
I hadn't really noticed its existence until you mentioned it to me. I think it's really cool, but there are so many systems. I'm not going to say anything about which one I'm going to target next, because I might just change my mind before I actually get to it.
So have you already got another one in mind? Have you?
Well, I'm actually not sure what I'm going to do next. I might actually consider a sequel, as you were just
yes.
But I'm not sure yet. Nothing's decided.
I was going to say, have you got any sort of story or idea where you'd want to go with another one?
Well, I think I have about 100 ideas on my list, which I wanted to incorporate into the first game, but I just didn't get around to it, because there are always more ideas than you have time to implement. So maybe I'll have to make a second game and implement them then.
I think you should. I definitely think you should. Have James or Ian, have you checked out Intrepid Izzy at this point?
I
Yeah, go on.
Okay, I've checked out the original demo that was released. That was quite a long time ago, and so I've seen the trailer. I was actually watching on another YouTube channel before this the trailer that came out. I think it was RUK Sprite something. It's a guy from Wales. Anyway, and the amazing thing to me is how much performance they've got out of it. Also, that it's not using the Callistos or Chaos environment. That's something I'd like to talk to Royal about, how we got the performance out of it and memory usage and stuff like that. Because getting 60 frames a second and getting the style and the graphics that he's got on that is no mean feat. It's actually an awesome achievement.
Yeah, I mean, can you answer that?
Could I answer that? Well, there's a number of tricks used. One is I simplified the video RAM layout. All textures are all 256 by 256, so that we don't get any memory fragmentation. That helps a little. It also makes the code simpler and therefore faster. Then, well, what else did I do? To get so many frames in, I used compression in software. As long as it doesn't decompress more than about 2 textures per frame, it still performs. It's very simple compression, RLE. It's run length encoding, which is one of the simplest and therefore fastest ways to compress it. It doesn't compress very much, only about 50%, but it's really fast. And what else did I do? I used VQ textures, but I didn't actually use VQ compression in those textures. I used the code table for the compression as a color palette. So normally there's 4 pixels for every byte, and I just filled those 4 pixels with the same color, so I can use it as a palette, as a color palette, and in that way I've basically infinite color palettes. And VQ textures render quite fast this way, faster than with the global palettes. So that's one of the ways the frame rate stays high.
There you go. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it's a really excellent idea with the VQ. So he can, with the global palette, the way he's doing it there, it can get basically unlimited type palette without. Yeah, that's excellent idea, and not using VQ compression. It actually can be slow and cause the transfer to memory and back can actually slow things down. So by using just the code table there and doing that, it's actually a lot faster. And he's using the other sort of compression because and memory fragmentation is a big problem. So it's good to know that he's using all the one size because a lot of people in the homebrew are they use all these different texture sizes, and you end up with massive memory fragmentation, and games tend to crash, even in the homebrew scene. Like I'm talking about pre-releases and when people are starting out. So yes, thanks to Royal for all that information.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, from my mind, where I'm not in a developer's mind at all, my mind gets blown every time I hear all of this. I'm literally like, what? I don't get any of that, but well done.
I also started this weird webcam that's zooming in and out. I have no way to control it.
It's absolutely lost control.
Yes.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's working, and it's good to have you anyway. So
there's there's some little man in there that's really bad cameraman from BBC who keeps zooming around.
Oh dear. It's got a mind of its own.
It does.
So, James, What about
Yes, sir.
yourself?
I played the early PC demo and the demo on the Dreamcast as well. So yeah, impressive, and yeah, like you said, the how smooth it looks and how polished the game looks and how well it plays is also a good thing as well. So yeah, and also the other back catalogue that you guys have as well, I'm impressed with. Also, so yeah, just great to be in your presence, which is good for the Dreamcast community. So yeah, very good.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I totally agree.
Thank
The,
you.
the thing that I often wonder is because a lot of platformers now today, they try and mimic 8-bit and 16-bit era style. Was there a reason you went for the route you went, or you just didn't want to do it in that style, or what was the reason you chose the art style you went for?
Well, it was uncharacteristic of me to go for this style because I was actually very focused on pixel art as well, or it used to be. But pixeling a sprite takes a lot of time. So I had been thinking for a while of a way to animate things faster, and I came up with an animation tool with which I could make these sprites from little bits of sprites. So the head and the fists and the arms and the legs are all separate bits that connect together, and it works very well. So that's what I used, and I can draw these sprites much quicker than pixel art, because this is much closer to the drawing style I would use if I were drawing on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's the inspiration for Izzy? Because why the choice of color of hair and things like that?
It's well, she's actually based on someone I used to know in real life.
Oh, okay.
So I met someone who had purple hair, and we got along real nicely for a while. But it's meanwhile I haven't seen her in probably 2 years, but still that's where it came from.
Ah, awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I like the design a lot. Like I said, I think it's good because it's different from a lot of the standards. Like I said, it's not a Sonic, it's not a Mario, so it's not a hedgehog or an animal or whatever. It's just a normal female. I like it. It's great. I think it's a good idea. And like I said, because we don't see it very often, and it's good to be different and original. And I do like that a lot. One thing I will say that I absolutely love is the music within Intrepid Izzy. I think the soundtrack is fantastic. Is it ever going to be released as like a physical soundtrack, or is it with a deluxe edition or anything like that?
Yeah, that's correct. The collector's edition will have a physical soundtrack included.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm also really happy to work with Ben, who made the music. He's the same guy who made the music for Rush Rally, and he just doesn't need much information. He just needs to know what kind of game we're making, and then he knows exactly what it should sound like. And I don't have to direct much. It's just he just starts making music, and when I receive it, I think this is perfect. Don't change a thing. Usually.
Yeah, and I think everyone will probably agree with me. It's so catchy, and it's just a constant tempo and a constant, like, just keeps you going, if you know what I mean. That probably sounds really weird saying keeps you going, but I think it's a really, really decent soundtrack, and really good work on it. Good choice of soundtrack, I'd say. I think it's great. Does that mean you could also have a vinyl release? Because obviously vinyl now is massive.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but maybe it's a fun thing to look into.
I think it would be. I think it'd be a great idea. You could just do it as a Kickstarter or something, and then the ultimate fans, I could imagine, would back it. I'll be surprised if they don't, because the amount of soundtracks for games that people absolutely love do get released as a vinyl if they're backed to a certain amount or whatever, and people go nuts for them, just because they're generally one-offs and you won't get them in a reprint or anything. And again, And if they love that soundtrack, they want it in a something they can hold. I know CD, great, fantastic to have with a special edition, but the ultra fan will want vinyl. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go and do that, but I'm just saying I think a lot of people they would get behind it. I think. If you did a vinyl release.
I do get the collectability of vinyl. They're just much bigger than CDs, and that makes them nicer to look at. CDs are just a tiny box, and you have to get really close in order to see the artwork. And vinyl is much nicer in that way. Exactly,
and you can get these frames where you can literally frame them and you can put them on the wall, because a lot of the time the art on them is so much far superior to what they'll necessarily have on a CD, and it just looks incredible because you just make it's a whole image out of it, and I just think they look absolutely great, to be fair. So we've got a few comments coming in already. Let's see what they all say. So we've already got a mention of a Beats of Rage. I think it's kind of a want. Biker Mice from Mars, Beats of Rage. I used to love Biker Mice from Mars. Oh, did anyone else ever watch that?
I did, yeah, I did.
That was so good. I don't know, because there was a game on the was it Super Nintendo? Or was it Genesis?
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Yeah, and that was pretty decent, to be fair. But we kind of just fizzled out, and you never hear from them again. Whereas Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, everyone is still talking about, which is weird because, like I said, everyone still talks about Biker Mice from Mars, but nothing ever gets done with it. So it'd be interesting to see if anyone did do that. I'm going to go to you, Ian.
I'm surprised you didn't say Teenage Mutant Hero Ninja Turtles or however it was in the UK.
No, I call it no TMNT.
Yeah, no, but the games by Microsoft were released. They were Hero Turtles.
Yeah, I don't know if that was it a legality issue. I can imagine.
No, because at the time in the UK you couldn't have the word ninja. That was bad.
It was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, violent.
I didn't know that. I mean, talking of Beats of Rage, we'll start with you, Ian.
Yeah.
What game would you like to see? Well, to be fair, you could probably go and do one. I mean,
the engine's there. I mean, like Raul and the team Senile, they made the engine there. The engine's quite capable of making all sorts of games, not just beat 'em up games. Like when it went to open bore and past that, I mean, you can make tower defense games. You can make RPG style games with the engine. But you could even make visual novel type games with the engine. So it's a very well designed and flexible engine with the scripting and everything. So the type of Beats of Rage games that I like to see are ones that run at 60 frames a second.
I know. I can see why.
It's like I take it within the engine. I've optimized it as much as you could do without using hardware rendering, and then you're going to run into problems with texture corruption. You're going to run into all sorts of problems. So with software rendering the way it is, 320, 240 is it. You're going above into the 16 and 32-bit palettes. It's just too slow for the color conversions. So I mean, I ported that part, but like the official open bore team says it was too much for the Dreamcast to handle. Well, it kind of is. So I made it available in the like the Dreambore branch that people can do that. But for me, I like to see a game that is optimized for the Dreamcast, and the way to do that best is to make sure that all your palettes are 8-bit palette, like 128 colors, and also to make sure that you can complete the game from start to finish. Whatever theme the game is, the only thing I'd like to see is 60 frames a second. Whatever theme that you got, like, you could have C64 mascots. You could have mascots from all themes. I mean, you don't have to have the traditional ones you see. There's many things you could just come up with original type beat 'em ups. I mean, you could have the developers on the forum and we're all in the game and beating each other up. I mean, who knows? But
I think that's a good idea, actually.
yeah, I mean, or they could have all the little avatars from people on the forum. It could be like, or you could have Games Re-Up in there, and James. I mean, you make any type of thing.
Everyone would just want to beat me up.
No, they wouldn't.
You can have any type of thing with the engine. So, to me, I think the best thing is if you're going to release a game for it, make sure you can complete it from start to finish, not run out of memory, and have it optimized so that when someone downloads it and burns it to a CDR, they're not stuck on the third level going, what happened?
Yeah.
Because it belittles the project of Beats of Rage, Open Bore, Dream Bore, my offshoot. And I wouldn't want to see that happen to the great work from Team Senile, because it's not the engine that's the problem. It's you have to learn how to optimize for it, do the scripting for it, and make sure that you actually do a beta testing and actually test the program from start to finish, and that you have no bugs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I see Rael there, he does in his games. I haven't seen any bugs. Yeah. But there
are some. I'm afraid there are always some bugs.
But as long as you do the beta testing, that you can play it from start to finish. You know what I'm talking about. Bugs are a feature. There's only bugs appear when you give it to a beta tester. Things start happening that don't happen for you when you test it. That's what I've found out. But there's been homebrew releases just recently which are completely, they don't work. I'm not going to talk about which one, but that's just not good enough. I think it brings the whole market down. If you have a game that you play and you get stuck and work around, you can't do that on a pressed disc that you sell. You have to beta test something from start to finish. And, we're not you can't provide a patch to a disc. I mean, you can, but then you've got a coaster with a patch.
Yeah.
So the only thing I'm looking forward to is when I eventually get to buy or get enough money to buy Intrepid Izzy, is playing it from start to finish and knowing that I'm not going to be stuck on somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've so in regards to going back to Beats of Rage, I mean, I've seen some real terrible stuff. I mean, like some real bad stuff. I mean, there's been some fantastic stuff, like Golden Axe Legends, really, really good. Was it Hyper Final Fight?
That was a 16-bit palette game. I optimized it for the 8-bit palette, but I used the grouping of colors that it looks the same as if it was, and it's running at 60 frames a second, whereas the version that was put out was running at about 15. So, but I had to do it all by hand, and it was not a nice experience because I should have just written a script or something to help me do it. But I was just seeing if it was possible. But yeah, you can play the game with 4 players from start to finish, and there might be bugs here and there, but it's not going to crash because of memory or usage like that. I think the most important thing is to have a high frame rate on the Dreamcast for games like this, and to make sure that you optimize the way the game looks, feels, and plays, because these sort of games like this Golden Axe Legends, it's still running too slow for me.
Yeah, I can see what you mean, to be fair. I mean, I don't know if that was my capture, but to be fair, it definitely wasn't 60 frames per second. Let's put it that way. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. What about yourself? Now, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly. Is it Roel? Roll? Roll. See, I'm going to get it wrong.
Not roll.
Roll.
As
in roll dial.
As in like roll dial, yeah.
Almost. Anyway, let's not dwell on that.
Okay, we'll just call you Senile Team for now, because
Fine.
I don't want to butcher your name. So, what about yourself? I mean, if you were now going to go and do a Beats of Rage game, title yourself, what would it be?
Well, if I were going to make any beat 'em up now, it would of course be Age of the Beast, which we announced many years ago, and then turned out we couldn't finish. But since then, I've learned a lot, and I think now I'd actually stand a chance of finishing it. I've never really officially cancelled it, but it has been in the fridge for a very, very long time. If I could start up that project again, I would.
Okay, does that mean that maybe you will after Intrepid Izzy?
It's a possibility.
That'd be good to see it.
Like I said, nothing's been decided yet. But if I were to make, another beat 'em up, that would be it.
That sounds like a bit of a hint to me. but obviously, I don't want to say. I
Make
don't
of
want
it what you will.
to. There you go, hot off the press, right there. What about yourself, James? If you were going to do one, what would it be about?
Well, I mean, we kind of spoke about something that we could do. I mean, can I say that we was wanting to do?
You can, yeah.
Well, for me, I've not really delved into homebrew porting or anything like that at all, or even any sort of game development apart from the Amstrad CPC 464 days. So I would like to do, say, 3 games. One would be, say, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. So I don't know if there is one. Either base it on the isometric arcade or the scrolling Mega Drive version. I'd go for Duke Nukem Manhattan Project, because that is a scrolling game. And then WWF WrestleFest, so an arcade in the ring, kind of like Retromania is at the moment. So they're little sprites, but kind of obviously trademarks and all that sort of stuff. I'll change all the rest of this slightly to make them slightly different, but just those sort of 3 different games. So it'd be a scrolling adventure sort of game like Duke Nukem, a beat 'em up game like Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, but kind of adventure, and then you've got the WWF WrestleFest. That's what I would do if I was going to work on it, and that's what I'd like to look at when I've actually seen anything of it. So
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I would love to do a Beats of Rage title, but the problem is I'm not sure whether I'd be any good at it. I mean, obviously we've got the right people below us to, obviously tell us how to do it, or at least give us some guidance.
I think it's a lot harder than you would think at keeping the consistent art style, and doing all the art work for a game like that. You have to plan it all out ahead. So if you were going to do it, I would be writing it down on paper or whatever thing you do first to get your whole design brief for the game. Yep. And in that way, you also have to think about making it not boring, because beat 'em up can be very boring, or it can be really entertaining. Some of the if you see some of the arcade games, they weren't boring because you died so often you went home before you finished it. So the difference between a home console and an arcade like beat 'em up is that you had the atmosphere, you had the people. But if you play some of the things like Final Fight or some arcade games at home without another player, they're extremely boring. They can be extremely they're not as good as your memory once thought they were.
Yeah.
So I think making any game, you've got to come up with new concepts or something to. If you don't have another player, like 2-player beat 'em ups, it's great because you're playing with your friends, and that really comes into it when you're playing to it. But if you're playing a single player experience with a beat 'em up game, I think you have to introduce new concepts, or something has to be done for that sort of thing. You can't just throw a bunch of characters together from a game and expect it to be fun. Designing fun into a game is actually the hardest part, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, because you do play some of these Beats of Rage titles, and it's just wave and wave and wave of the same enemy. Then you get to a boss after like 2 stages, then it's the same again, and there's really nothing there at all that kind of even makes a good game. I mean, I say it doesn't make a good game because I couldn't necessarily do it myself, but when you think people have put the time into at least trying to get these games done, you wonder why they haven't gone full with it, like plan it and, you know, really go for it and make a decent game. You see that quite a lot with Beats of Rage games. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's just sheer. Maybe they just think what they've done is right and it looks good. I don't know, but or maybe it was just an experiment or a way for them to get into doing some development, but with that engine. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's certainly a strange one, to be fair. And yeah, like I said, I don't know why they do it. If I was going to do one, yeah, it could be a Duke Nukem title, or I'd like to see. I don't know how you do it, but a Half-Life inspired one. I think that would be so weird. but
it would be kind of like Aliens, wouldn't it, with the little crawly things?
Yeah, exactly. Because you got the head crabs in it and things like that.
Yeah.
Then I suppose that actually could work, and you could get a bit of a storyline into it in regards to having the reactor and etc. I think that could actually be quite an interesting title. Like I said, whether I'd be able to do it myself, I'm not entirely sure, but I wouldn't mind giving it a go at some point because I'd like to maybe see if I could do it. But I mean, what on average do you think it would take to make a game like that? Do you reckon? Anyone can answer that.
If you're going to, well, you wouldn't have a lot of some of these games. They're just ripping the artwork, so you'd have to be actually creating it yourself for like a 2D Half-Life. The scripting and stuff, you could learn that. That wouldn't be too hard. But doing the artwork on Beats of Rage games is the biggest thing that you see. People are taking sprites and stages and putting them together, but without a design concept of the game. It's like so the game you're talking about, that could take a very, very long time to do.
I agree.
Very long time. I mean, and to have it consistent and because it's a lot harder to do Beats of Rage games well than it is to just, get some graphics, rip it together, put some guys in there. But the base engine is excellent, so it does everything for you. And people are creating like a skin over the top of that was already created. But the new commands in OpenBore allow you to do things like I've seen RPG elements. I've seen added things like this you can do. So the engine is there and it's quite capable, but to learn to use it well and to do an art set that makes it original and fun to play, that's a whole different level. That's a commitment, because you wouldn't be doing anything else. You'd be, I'm going to do this the next 2 years.
Whereas, I'm not. I'd have to be pretty.
I mean, I'm not an artist like that. So even creating, one level would take me forever to do. And it wouldn't look any good like I want it to look. So I'd have to, if I was doing a proper game like that with their engine, I would have to employ a proper artist.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They'd also have to work within the limits of the engine as well. So you're not just talking about great artwork. You're talking about artwork that works within the engine and the Dreamcast that is fast enough. Because I don't think 15 frames a second and 20 frames a second is good enough when you're playing on a 60 frame a second console. I mean, it could be all right, and it brings you back to but the engine is not the problem for the speed. It's the artwork that is used within it. As long as you say, and the engine is perfectly fine. I mean, if you show some of the ones that I put out, I've only put out 3 or so. they're running 60 frames a second all the time with music and with all effects. And I mean, that's due to the great work that Team Senile did with the engine optimizing. I mean, it's a very good engine. The sound, the optimized sound output, the scripting, everything is, it's actually a fantastic engine. But what I don't like to see is these half-baked games that run at like 10 frames and 15 frames a second, and it makes people think worse of what the engine can do than what it really can do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Does anyone want to add anything onto that sort of that question?
Well, I did want to add on, but it was minutes ago. Meanwhile, that Ian said something about the artwork being a big hurdle, and that's something that we also experienced when we started working on Age of the Beast. Is that there was so much artwork to be done that it by the time that I had a few sprites done, I was already dissatisfied with them because I'd advanced so much that I could do them better, and it's you get into an infinite cycle that way, and that was very bad. Yeah, well, Ian said he's not an artist, and it would take him a lot of time to make even just one level. Well, I am an artist, and it would take me a lot of time too. So I know that if you want to make something original, the artwork is definitely the biggest hurdle.
When creating Beats of Rage titles, either using the original Beats of Rage or the Dream Bore or is it Open Bore now? Or Open Dream Bore?
Open Bore, mine is just an optimization of the Open Bore engine. It includes the ability to run the 16-bit and 32-bit ballots. Not that they're very useful, but people wanted that. It's also optimized with SH4 memory replacements and things like this. And it also has saving, VMU saving. And I've done as much as I can, but we're still talking about software rendering. So, you can only do so much.
So if you were going to go and create a Beats of Rage title, what would be the best platform to start on? Would it be the original Beats of Rage to learn from, then move to Dream Ball?
I think the basis is
it very similar?
It's very similar. It's almost the same engine. It's
right.
The Open Bore added different features, some different commands and things for the engine, but both you still need to optimize to fit into the RAM that you have. Both you still need to optimize your artwork. I mean, much more on Open Bore because it's actually not as efficient, because the original Beats of Rage wasn't using like Callistos. It had its own like little dev kit, and so it had a much lower memory footprint than Open Bore. Open Bore is when using SDL and Callistos. I mean, you're already starting behind the game when you start on it. The main reason for starting on it was the extra commands and stuff that people used, so you could do different styles of games. But you don't see that many. It's available there, but you don't see that many. But both are the same. I mean, you just have to have a consistent design format that you want to make the game. I mean, you don't have to copy arcade games. To make something, the reason why people are not doing that is, like Raul said there, is that to make something original takes a full commitment and many years, and you also have to keep it consistent in that universe. So if you want to make a game with it, yes, sure, you can make Barbie Goes to Hollywood if you want.
Barbie Goes to Hollywood.
Yes, I mean, if you set your hand background and you could do anything you want in it. Your imagination is there. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't even mimic Game Boy original games in it, and have like a black and white palette, or even Spectrum type look, or even CPC. There is a guy doing a thing right now that mimics the CPC color palette,
Right.
the Amstrad color palette, and it looks really nice. And he's doing like a beat 'em up with it, but it's all original. All the art, everything is original. So I think I'm more excited about when people do original games with it. I like the mimicking the arcade games as long as it brings something new. And to answer, I don't know how to say his name, but it's McLeod there, that 2D like a beat 'em up can't be fun as a single player. It can be fun as a single player. I've played many great single player beat 'em ups. My favorite is actually in Neo Geo, and so Neo Geo CD, which there can be, but when you're creating a game like you're not actually a developer, you're on the side of creating the artwork and the scripts. The engine is there, so you have to work towards your limits. But to create a fun game as a single player in a beat 'em up is very difficult. Even people back in the day that were working on the Amiga port of Final Fight, he couldn't stand. He butchered it because he couldn't understand how boring it was because he was playing it. He'd never played the arcade game, but he ported Final Fight to the Amiga, and all he did was hit a few people, go along, hit a few people, and he couldn't even actually understand the concept. That's why the Final Fight port on the Amiga is so bad.
I don't think I've ever seen it. To be
bad.
fair,
it is quite bad. It's because he didn't understand the concept of, and he couldn't have as many waves. So you're only getting like one or two at a time, and then move, and then it looks like Final Fight. It doesn't play like it.
Yeah, which is a shame. So at that point, it's lost any sort of relevance, even being like what it should be.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. As we've got Rush Rally Racing in the background there, I'm just going to put on a little trailer.
We don't, because
hold on.
It's froze, so I need to sort that out. I think the demo's run out, so
that's quite all
so
right.
You can put something on.
So what I was going to say is I'm just going to run the trailer for it, just so people, if they don't know what we're talking about, they'll know what we're about to be talking about. Let's run that now. As you can see, a really old trailer. Literally like 12 years old. But hey, that doesn't matter. So yeah, that's it. That's Rush Rally Racing. What was the main reason? Like, what inspired you to actually get on and make that game? Because to me, it's a really good. I call it just a really good top-down sort of arcade-style racer. And obviously, there aren't a huge amount of those out there. So what was the actual main reason behind it?
It's a bit of a lost genre, isn't it? We started working on it because of a coding contest. So we thought it would be fun to make a racer for a coding contest, which was supposed to be just one level and a few cars, probably the same car, to keep it simple and have a shot at winning the contest. And then the contest was cancelled. Meanwhile, we'd already been adding way too many features. So we figured we can just throw this away, or we can keep developing it into a really complete game. And then we added even more features. And then we did a Reloaded with even more features. So it just kept growing. And that's how it happened.
That's awesome. Because it obviously didn't have online play, did it? Because obviously the Dreamcast online scene now is growing pretty massively. Could this ever have had online capability?
Yeah, I think so. But not in the same way that a game like Quake has online capabilities. You'd have to set it up a bit differently because the game is very fast. You have to very fast controls. You can't send your controls to the server and then the server decide what to do with them. Everything has to happen locally, and then they have to be synced up in some way. But it would be possible, probably. But you might see some different things happening on different screens. So it would be very tricky.
Yeah, I see what you mean, because obviously there would be lag, wouldn't there? Because it just, I can understand that. That does make sense. Do you think we'll see a second one? A follow-up to the original?
I don't think so. It's I've worked on that game a bit too much. It's I did get a bit sick of it in the end.
Oh no, you don't like your own game.
I'm proud of it, but I wouldn't want to work on it again.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. That does make total sense. Anyone got any questions here about Rush Rally Racing that you wanna field here? Anyone? Oh, hold on, James, you're on mute.
Sorry, guys. I was just dealing with a technical issue at the background because trying to find a game that has an attract mode on it that doesn't stop after 20 minutes of just looping. So this will do. An Atomic Wave game. Ian Michael has got that on his channel as well, and you have as well, Games Rib. So as you mentioned, you thought about the online side of things. I mean, yes, it would be difficult to do an online game. I love playing online games. So would it have been like an online leaderboard? That could have been something that could have been implemented, because everyone likes to have their fastest laps down the track. But yeah, no, I enjoy playing the game, and if there was a sequel, I know that you're not interested in that at all. But if there was things like an online leaderboard, kind of that's how Arcade Racing Legends has not done as well as they had hoped, because once you finished it and unlocked everything, that's it really. And the only reason why I bought it, because it had a CD soundtrack, as you guys were mentioning earlier, and like a promotional or special edition. I bought it because there was a CD soundtrack. So Intrepid Izzy, if it had a CD soundtrack on there, if it, like you mentioned, it may do, or it has, then I'll probably buy that one, because I like to have a CD soundtrack. If I'm at work, I like to listen to, I always listen to game soundtracks. I put the House of the Dead music in the CD player and just listen to that whilst I'm at work, because the soundtrack is amazing on the Sega PC. Same with Sega Rally, same with other Sega games. You know, the soundtracks on those and Sega Touring Cars are awesome. So yeah, if there's a CD version of Rush Rally with a soundtrack, or any online leaderboards, or Intrepid Izzy with a CD soundtrack, I'll be all over those. So that's what I like.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I listen to a hell of a lot of game soundtracks. I seem to listen to them more than I do any, like, what quote unquote traditional music, if you know what I mean. I don't know what it is.
I put like Revenge of Shinobi on in the background because I just love that music. And then, like you say, the vinyls, I've got all the vinyls as well, like Metal Slug and Outrun and all those things, because they look stunning, and like the artwork on those. And actually, sometimes I don't even want to play them because they look so nice, the vinyls. I don't want to put the pin through any of them. But yeah, for me, it's CD soundtracks or vinyl soundtracks, and anything to do with online. So if there's an online leaderboard on anything, or in like DLC on Intrepid Izzy, if there's a store like Sonic Adventure has a store, and other games have sort of events that you can download. So if Intrepid Izzy had, say, sort of themes like Halloween, Christmas, all that sort of stuff to go on there, because Fantasy Star Online has the guys that change it whenever there's anything special, like Valentine's Day. They have various things that that can be implemented on the game. So just those sort of things I like.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few questions coming in thick and fast here now. So the first one is, why develop for the Dreamcast? And that is obviously to the two May guys below. So whoever wants to answer that one first.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Well, one reason is because it doesn't require any modification to your console, unlike many other consoles. So you can develop for it with just your standard CDRs. It's also pretty powerful for how simple it works. So that's a good thing. And also, one thing that's very nice about developing for the Dreamcast is just the Dreamcast scene itself, the community, because everyone's very supportive, and it's one of the nicest communities I've been a part of.
That's really nice to hear. It's really nice to hear. And obviously, we appreciate everything you guys do. But yeah, the amount of stuff I see getting done for the Dreamcast nowadays is incredible. I mean, I've been a fan of the Dreamcast since day one. I'm probably sure we all have been. Obviously, I've just enjoyed it from a gamer's side, and obviously now seeing the love for it since I must have been, God, what was I, 13, I think, when it came out, and loved it ever since. And because the Dreamcast was kind of one of those that not everyone had, so I kind of felt a little, not like an outsider, but because I wasn't focusing on like PS1 going into PS2 or whatever, I was Sega the whole way through. It was just a little bit different, and I liked I just liked their games, just the style of them, and they were just that little bit different. But yeah, no, that's interesting to hear. Ian, what about yourself?
For me, exactly what Raoul said there, that you didn't have to modify it and to do coding for it. And of course, when I first started on it, it was like 2002, and the big thing that kept me going on it was the first thing I ever ported was a Space Invaders Eliminator. And it was like, I couldn't believe it when I actually got it to work on the Dreamcast. I run around the room like this, like a kid that just won, in the candy store. I thought I just won $1 million because I seen that some code that I did was running on a real Sega console. And that euphoria of seeing something you've done, it hasn't been done before, like the code hasn't been done. It was all about, for me, seeing something that was unlicensed, something that no one had done, like a first. You could get it to run on the Dreamcast, and it was, yes, the code might have been ported or, whatever you were doing, but to see something run on a real Sega console, that's what kept the spirit going for me. Also, the entire scene, the supportiveness of it. Everyone out there, there's lots of people support me and keep me going. I mean, at times you get burned out doing projects on Dreamcast, because getting the extra last 10% out of anything Dreamcast takes a lot of effort. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. To the way Team Senile has done Intrepid Izzy there's a lot of late nights and a lot of effort to get months, years to get that sort of performance. And so it's a beautiful console to code for, but to get the best out of it, you have to go to the next level of optimization. But for me, the fun was always the scene, the supportiveness of the people, and also that you could run code on it without modifying it. So I'll echo that sentiment. I've always been a Sega person. Like, I didn't go to the PS1. I was I'll tell you, I was SG 1000, and then I was SG 3000. So I'm talking about the home computer, and then I was Master System or Mark III, and then after the Master System, it was Mega Drive, and then Saturn, and then Dreamcast. So I've been following it since the start. Like, the original console is the one I had, was the Sega SG 1000. So yeah, I go back a bit with one of my first programs I did was for the SG 3000. You had to plug in a basic cartridge, and every time I wrote the little program, it was like a little man who went up and down on the screen. I had no way of saving it, so I had to actually retype the program in BASIC every time I wanted to see it.
No way.
yeah.
That's
So,
crazy.
Yeah, so I've always loved Sega games that there was innovation, because if you look in a lot of Sega games, of course in Australia we call it Sega, so I'm converting on the fly. It's Sega in Australia, but it's Sega everywhere else. So there's a lot of little innovations on games, even going back to 1980 and 1979 on some Sega arcade games. They always had a forward-thinking look, and sometimes pushed their own hardware way too far. But the innovation is what always drew me to Sega, and also the pick up and play. And that's why they're named for arcade type things. But you didn't have to play for 100 hours to get enjoyment out of Sega games.
No, you're absolutely right. It really was pick up and play, and I think that's why people really do love them. There's another question kind of around the same sort of vein. Tips for someone interested in getting started on developing games for the Dreamcast? Either of you?
I'd say, even though my games are not based on KOS or KallistoOS, I'd say use that, because it's actually quite good and it's easy to get into.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very good. It's Callistos or Chaos 2.0 is anything you're going to do when you're starting out, you're never going to be pushing it further than you need to, until you get to a point where you're good enough, where you're pushing it to a high level, is going to be a very long time. So it is excellent to start out with, and you can do excellent things with it, and it is very stable, has all drivers for even the Dream Eye. So you've got Dream Eye, you've got mouse, you've got keyboard, you've got modem, you've got everything that you need, and a whole community and information when you get stuck. So that is the big thing with using Chaos or Callistos, is that there is lots of people you can talk to get help when you're stuck or when you need to go by. So if you're starting out, I would also suggest Dream SDK by Sazius, which runs on Windows, because when you're first going to start developing, you don't want to be learning every build system there is. Dream SDK makes it possible for you to develop on Windows using Callistos without much trouble. You can do all the examples and just get a feel. Do you want to invest that type of effort into it? Because a lot of people think, oh, you develop a game, it's going to be, no, all the Dreamcast, everything I do is just all command line. So do you want to go into a thing? It's not like Unity or or some of the game makers. We're talking C, we're talking, in an IDE, we're not talking about moving boxes and doing like development game maker or click and play. This is all your own code or examples of code that you're putting together. So first thing you have to learn is C before you have to have a basic knowledge of C before you get involved in Dreamcast development.
Yeah. That's probably why I could never do it. So we've got another one here. And it says, were you surprised how much you squeezed out of the Dreamcast? Did you discover any new hacks/tricks in the process?
So this is the part where I say, sometimes I surprise even myself. But yeah, I do think I squeezed out much more of it than I would have thought possible 20 years ago. When I started Dreamcast development, I didn't know nearly as much about the hardware as I do now. And it does have some really nice elements to it, such as it actually has a connection between the CPU and the video processor parts of the hardware that can copy data from your system RAM to video RAM super fast, and it's one of these things. If you learn how to use it, it can really speed up it can really increase performance. And yeah, I said it earlier during this live stream. The trick of using VQ compression not to compress textures, but to actually use them as extra color palettes is also a trick that came in really nicely. I didn't actually think of that myself, by the way. It was actually Nicolas, who I was working with at the time, who came up with this trick. But it works really well. And yeah, as you continue to work with the Dreamcast, you discover new things, and everything you do increases performance. It's definitely something. It's definitely the device that does keep surprising me, or has been surprising me a lot.
Yeah. And to be fair, straight after this, we got another question for you. Looks stunning. Is there an engine / toolkit behind this that you have plans to share or / license? I think that means.
Yeah, I've had this question before. It's of course, with Beats of Rage, we shared everything, the code and the tools. Well, they weren't really tools. It was just it was all just text files which you had to fill in. But at least we had some documentation explaining exactly how it was done. In this case, there are a lot more tools that are built to make this game, and the tools are not really that accessible. I think for me, they're very easy to use because I made them, so I know how they work. But to impart that knowledge on someone else is quite difficult. So currently, I'm not really thinking of sharing the tools or licensing them, but perhaps in the future I might change my mind and I might do it anyway. But it would require some effort to make the tools usable for anyone but myself.
Yeah, I mean, could it be kind of a bit like how we see Sonic now, where people are making their own Sonic games using essentially the not old way of doing it, but using the methods that they made to make Sonic games. So make their own fan games. So, for example, if you do an Intrepid Izzy 2, maybe then people would want to start doing their own Intrepid Izzy titles. I mean, that's just an idea, but can you see where I'm going with that? Maybe people would want to use those tools and do the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, they might, or they might make some original platform games. Probably, more likely they'll take sprites from an existing game and and then make mods with that. But yeah, you could do a lot more with the engine, except a lot of stuff now is hard coded into the game, so that would have to change as well if I were to release it for use by others. But it's good that you mentioned Sonic, because I actually did look into how Sonic does things as a platform engine before I built this one. So there's quite a lot of similarities there, which there had to be, because I also have some loopings in the game, and there's really only one correct way to do it.
I see. Yeah, well, yeah, you can see it. For example, it was in like that. It was even in the trailer that I showed earlier, I believe, with when you're in the minecart and you go around in a loop. Yeah. That clearly looks inspired by Sonic, in a good way, though. It's good to see that in there, and kind of nods to other games, because there's also the kind of Hadouken move in there, isn't there? Am I right in saying that? There is, isn't there? Was there a lot of kind of other nods to other games within Intrepid Izzy that I may have missed? Or others may have missed?
Question. Well, my main inspiration was definitely Sonic. It's also visible in some of the levels with the palm trees and stuff. But well, there were some others, of course, in the arcade mini games. The racing game there is really just a mix of Road Rash and an old racer on the Atari 2600 called Enduro.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's see. Well, it's really just a mix of basically a Sonic-like platform game and the generic idea of beat 'em ups and fighting games. Not really any specific one, except in terms of beat 'em ups, my biggest influence is always Streets of Rage.
Yeah. I would love to see a. Because I thought Streets of Rage 4. I don't know if you've played it. Have you played it?
I have.
I thought that was great. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I actually kind of liked the way you could flick between the art style they've gone with and the kind of original. Yeah, actually, you can do that. And go to their kind of like 16-bit style as well to kind of go back to the older style as well. I thought that was a good kind of little thing to have in it. I thought anyway. And it would be good to see them keep going with it and maybe see a number 5. Because everyone I speak to who says they've played Streets of Rage 4 absolutely loves it. So, yeah, it would be good to see another one, I think, anyway. So we got one more question here, and it says, how do the color palettes work in Izzy? One for everything per character, like AOTB or something else?
There's no global palette. Every character can have its own palette. In fact, every texture could have its own palette in principle, but I didn't have to go that far. But some of the characters or objects are actually combined into a single file and use the same palette. But every character can have its own palette. And of course, the background can have a different palette than the tiles of the level, and the interface can have its own palette. So it's basically unlimited palettes.
Awesome. Oh, do you know what would be quite good, I think? To maybe somehow see a Mega Drive version of Intrepid Izzy. I don't know how on earth you'd even try and do that, but
just for fun, I did draw a Mega Drive resolution sprite of Izzy once, just to see how it looks. Maybe I can look it up. I'll post it to you on Twitter.
Yeah, please do. I would love to see that. That'd be awesome. Right, so we're pretty much finishing up here. I think we've had all of the questions that have been posted on here that I can see. Yes, it is. So we're all up to date. So obviously, I want to thank you for coming, everyone for coming onto the stream tonight to speak about Senile Team, Beats of Rage, obviously, Intrepid Izzy, Rush Rally Racing, because obviously we're all excited for Intrepid Izzy to come to the Dreamcast. I think it's going to be awesome once that's released, and yeah, really can't wait for it to come out. So thanks for coming onto the show tonight. It's been absolutely great to have you all here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much. No, I honestly thought when I asked on Twitter, I was like, surely they're not going to want to come onto one of my streams. and you said you were up for it. And I was like, yes, awesome. That is awesome. So yeah, no, thank you for doing that. And I think the community out there are glad you're on it to give your perspective, because I don't know if you've done many streams before, have you?
Not many. I did a live stream during the Kickstarter campaign, but it was very new to me, and I was very nervous back then. But this time, I'm a lot more relaxed, and that's largely due to how you're handling things, because I think you're a very good interviewer and live streamer.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that, because sometimes I'm as nervous as anything.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Al's very good at doing this sort of thing, and that's why I agreed to keep coming back. I did one before it because I feel more comfortable and don't have to do things like that. It's also an honor to be on a stream with Team Senile and with Raul there, one of my heroes of coding on the Dreamcast.
You are too kind.
Oh no, you have done fantastic work, and a lot of hard work that I don't think a lot of people will even know how much hard work you've done. I know by doing some stuff that I've done, like trying to get things to run like that, how much work it takes. So thank you. It's been an honor to be on the stream with you, and thank you, James, up there, also for all your great questions and about online, because homebrew games going forward should have an online leaderboard of some type or online play. So yes, and thanks, Al, for inviting me on here as well. So
No,
thank you, everyone.
yeah, no, not a problem at all, and I'm glad to have you on here as well. And James, obviously, always good to have you here as well, Mr. Dreamcast Online himself. You know, it like Ian said, it is good to speak about Dreamcast Online, because it is a thing that is getting bigger and bigger.
Well, yeah, that is it. Yeah,
you know. Yeah, it's just great to have you here to talk about it, because, like I said, not everyone would normally ask those type of questions. To be fair, no one in the comments asked anything online related, so it's good to have you here for that, because
cool.
Good to have that
Yeah,
here as well.
Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. So obviously, I'll let you all go now. But is there any way that they can reach out to all of you? Where are you going to be? So for James, where are you going to be? You're on Twitter, YouTube.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and YouTube, and everywhere. If you just search for It's Much More, you'll be able to find me on the social platforms. I did try and find another game that had a rolling intro of sorts, but it just keeps looping round. So yeah, I did try Rush Rally again, but I gather you guys have seen that enough. If you haven't, then go buy it and play it for yourself. But yeah, that's where you find me. I'm on YouTube everywhere. I do a lot of streaming and stuff, and I'm on the Dreamcast community as well. So kind of the Dreamcast is homebrew, retail, and online. That's how the Dreamcast is split up. So I kind of got my ear to everything really, with Al with his homebrew and ports, and me with the online side of things. You get to hear different sort of questions within the online community. So it's good to be here and just be part of this.
Thanks very much, James. And Ian, where can they find you?
They can find me on my YouTube channel. It's just search for Ian Michael Dreamcast. It's up there, or YouTube Ian Michael. I'm also on Twitter. It's just Ian Michael 10 or something like that. But I'm on Twitter, and yes, I'm also looking forward, Dan, to your report of Postal. Yeah, just a quick wave out to Dan there. Yeah, you can find me on DC Talk on Discord. I'm all about most of the time.
I was going to say, every time I reach out to you, you're always pretty much responding straight away. So you must be up doing something. So no, it's good to have you on here. So I'm going to try and say your name. Roel.
Whatever, I know who you mean.
It's sorry for butchering your name. I'm terrible with names. No, honestly, thank you for coming onto the stream. Because, like I said, I wasn't sure you'd necessarily want to come on the stream, because obviously,
it's my pleasure.
It's been awesome. So thank you for coming on, and we all can't wait for, like I said, Intrepid Izzy coming out on the Dreamcast. And so we can all look forward to that, and obviously possibly a sequel as well. So where can everyone find you?
Well, before I say that, I want to mention one thing, and that's,
go for it.
I'm really impressed with Ian Michael's work too, because he's very productive and he clearly knows what he's doing. And I just wanted to say that. And well, you can find me on, or us really, on Twitter, on Facebook, and we have our own website, senile.team.com.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. I will knock you all off the screen slowly. So if you all want to wave goodbye, I will remove you slowly. Goodbye. So yeah, that's it, everyone. That's another stream wrapped up, and what a stream it was, as you can see. We still got a couple more comments here, but they're mainly just saying great stream, mad props. Chris Retro Spiel here. Just want to say hi and thanks for everything. Not a problem at all. Like I said, it was great to have all the guys on there today. And yeah, so we'll wrap it up here. And what I'm going to end it with is another Intrepid Izzy video. But this is one of the actual tracks used in the game. So I can't remember the name of it now. But anyway, we're going to close with it, and you'll see exactly what I'm on about. So thank you very much, everyone. If you don't already subscribe, please do, or feel free to give it a like. And like I said, make sure to follow Senile team, because the work on Intrepid Izzy and obviously all of the previous projects are absolutely fantastic. So if you don't already follow them, then do on Twitter and also YouTube. They do put a couple bits on there as well when new stuff sort of surfaces, etc. But Twitter is the main focus, I'd say, what it seems to be, for them reaching out to the community. So thanks, everyone, and we will see you all again.